Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Tuesday?
I'm doing great. Doing great. We had a decent week. We're going to recap the games, so I'm looking forward to it.
We got a lot to talk about. Somehow the Jets, who are already not a great team and historically are a terrible team, somehow have bottomed out and created an even new low, which I thought was somehow not even possible because of how low they already were. And the Dolphins just seem to keep shooting themselves in the foot because they keep making these self-inflicted wounds consistently when they have no room for error. And that's what I'm going to talk about to start the show. So let's begin with my first topic of today's show, which is this Dolphin situation, because Tua in the postgame, he said some crazy things. And I want to start immediately off with what his initial comment was that broke, the internet essentially when they heard it. So take a listen.
I think it starts with the leadership in helping articulate that for the guys, and then what we're expecting out of the guys, right? We're expecting this. Are we getting that? Are we not getting that? We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings. Like, there's a lot that goes into that. Do we have to make this mandatory? Do we not have to make this mandatory? So it's a lot of things of that nature that we got to get cleaned up, and it starts with the little things like that.
But then he didn't stop there. He followed up with this next comment, which just contradicted what he just said. So take a listen to what he had to say then right after that.
We all got to look at ourselves, not pointing fingers. We got to look at ourselves individually first about what I could have done to help our team win that game. And then we can come together and we can talk about, all right, we need this group to do this better or whatever. But that's why I say it's frustrating.
Let's start with this. Don't throw 3 interceptions in a game. I know the first one was on Jalen Waddle, whatever the case may be. The second one was a terrible throw, and the third one is just screw it, let's get this game over with type of interception. But I said this after week 1. The Dolphins need a reset. Whether it be the GM, the head coach, the quarterback, whatever the case may be, it really can't be the quarterback because you just paid him. But I do think that there needs to be a full sweep of something, because if you're Stephen Ross, what are you waiting for? What are you being patient for? The quarterback can't beat good teams. There's data out there that says he's basically, he wins so his win-loss is good overall, but ultimately he's like 7-30 against winning teams, and especially in the biggest moments of your season when it gets cold, he can't succeed on any level. So you have him, as I always say, you have him for about 70% of the season where you're going to expect at least half decent play, and if he doesn't give it that, if he doesn't give that to you, well then he's just ultimately a bad quarterback. But there's way more than just Tua, and I can go on Tua all day, every day, because he said some bad things about Tyreek Hill publicly that I didn't like. Now he's attacking, leadership, even though he wears that C on his chest, which means that he's a captain, so he's supposed to be the leader of the team when it comes to the players. I also don't love how Mike McDaniel, when he gets up to the podium and he's asked a question, he responds in a way that makes it seem like he's like a 4th grader who gets called on in class when they didn't do their homework for them to answer a homework question. He sounds like he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He tries to get an answer. It doesn't make sense. I feel like I have a brain aneurysm every time I hear Mike McDaniel at the podium. But there's way more to this, because I think ultimately this game was a perfect opportunity for Stephen Ross to lose all patience. And here's why. The Chargers were down to their 4th offensive lineman because, first off, Rashawn Slater was done for the year. He got injured very, very early on, or late in the offseason, or right before the season started, so he was done for the year. Then they also lost Joe Alt against the Giants, which wasn't great. You had to put in Trey Pipkins, who ultimately was out for this game, so they had to start their 4th-string offensive lineman. They have the 3rd worst center PFF grade in the NFL. They're another one of the guards, Zion Johnson. He's about average. And then Austin DeCullis, I'm going to pronounce, I probably screwed up his last name, but he's ranked 105th out of 113 tackles. And the Dolphins generated a pass rush that was 30.8% of Justin Herbert's dropbacks, which was 19th for 32 in pressure rate. it was really bad. And they have some guys. Matt Judon, by the way, barely played any defensive snaps, which I found interesting. I felt like I see him more on special teams now than I do actually on defense. But Bradley Chubb did nothing. Jordan Brooks did basically nothing. I think he was the highest graded defender on PFF. But ultimately, you cannot let a team who's on their fourth string offensive lineman as their starting tackle, and you somehow don't generate really any pass rush whatsoever. They struggle with tackling. They couldn't tackle anybody. Vidal had a great game. His previous career high was 34 yards, and he ran for, I think, 134 in this one? It's 3.6 times higher, whatever his career highest was before this. I thought the downfield blocking was bad. Cole Strange on a screen pass couldn't block anything. I just think ultimately that this team is not a good team. It's not going in any it's right direction isn't even on the minds of any Dolphins players, because you have Tua coming out here and saying that players are late to players-only meetings and they're not even showing up. Well, that falls on two people. It falls on the head coach and it falls on the quarterback, because that means that the coach does not have a grasp on this locker room whatsoever, and the other side of it is nobody has respect for Tua. And I think that they understand that he's a very limited quarterback. He can make some great plays, but ultimately, he's not going to go out there and win you any massive games. Hell, he can't win in January, late December, and in January. He just can't. So if you don't believe, if you go into the huddle saying, you know what, my starting quarterback, he's good for, 70% of the season. So if we even if we get to 11-6 and we make a wild card game, we're probably going to be playing in Kansas City or Buffalo, which then ultimately means you're going to be playing in cold weather. And Tua, when he plays in degrees that is less than 45, he's winless. So you don't have any confidence. There's no vote of confidence for Tua whatsoever. Again, I'm not going to blame Tua fully for the 3 picks. The first one was Jalen Waddle dropping it into the defender's arms. The second one was a terrible throw. And the third one was just let's get this game over with. There's no shot we're going to do the stupid lateral, and try to win the game that way. I do think, though, we are at a point in the Dolphins season where something is going to change. Whether it be Chris Greer being fired. By the way, I think he's the longest tenured GM in the National Football League currently. He's been there for like 25 years with the Dolphins, so it's pretty ridiculous, and they've still yet to win a playoff game. But whether it's going to be Chris Greer or Mike McDaniel, because they're not going to obviously trade or release a quarterback that they just gave a contract to. But if you go out, and I was stunned when I saw this, and it got worse today because of how it moved, the Browns are currently favored over this Miami Dolphins team. They were 2.5 yesterday. Now it's -3. If Dylan Gabriel gets his first career win after looking all right in London, or was it Ireland, when they played, was it the Vikings? Or, last week where he looked really terrible against the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he somehow goes out and beats you for his first career win, if you're Stephen Ross, how much more patience do you have? Because that means the Dolphins moved to 1-6, just lost to a rookie quarterback who replaced a 40-year-old quarterback who didn't look that great already on a Cleveland Browns team that really shouldn't be winning any games because they're not built to win. They have a nice rookie running back that I like a lot in Judkins. Their offensive line isn't great. Their defense is good on paper, but we saw against the Steelers, they really couldn't do anything against Aaron Rodgers. Myles Garrett saying that it sucks to lose, well, no one has sympathy because you signed a $40 million contract. But I just think that this Dolphins team looks really, really ugly. I think that the offensive scheming was very poor. You were going very laterally where you have to go down the field. It was, I want to look downfield and then Tua wouldn't take the check down. Or he'd only take the check down and not look downfield. The scheming was weird. And then ultimately, late in games, how many times have we seen the Dolphins maybe take the lead late in the game and then their defense can't hold on to it? Or Tua needing to make a game-winning drive throws an interception, or they can't convert, or they can't get into field goal range, or they can't score a touchdown. We've seen that basically the entire season so far. So this team is not built to win. Their defense is abysmal. They are currently dead last in rush EPA allowed, or EPA per rush allowed, and they're the worst in EPA per play allowed. They're the second worst in pass EPA per pass allowed. I mean, this team doesn't do anything right. The defense is bad. Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle are the only things keeping this team afloat. So ultimately, I think something has to change, whether it's this, like after the season, and I think during the season. I've been on this now after week 1 when I saw that whole debacle. Yeah, this team needs some sort of change. You can't keep going with the same unit out there that already, there was a report even last year that, some players wouldn't show up to practices or wouldn't show up to meetings, and then they had to be disciplined internally. Well, if that's happening again, and Mike McDaniel has no authority over the locker room, and though nobody even really has any respect for Tua Tagovailoa to show up to players-only meetings, you can't go into the next season saying, you know what? We got the coach in Mike McDaniel. We got our franchise quarterback in Tua. Chris Greer's making some great moves in the offseason. You can't say that because it flat out isn't true. I think there's a lot of tension within the locker room. Something isn't clicking. The offense is stagnant. The defense is abysmal. They can't go out for 30 minutes and really, early on it looked okay. But then when it matters most late in the game, when the offense sputters and the defense can't keep up, well, then the defense gets exposed. You have late game chokes. You have bad roster development and also growth. If Dylan Gabriel wins, something has to change. Mike McDaniel's this offensive guru. We saw it for like a season. I'm waiting for a little bit more than a season. So ultimately, this is, I thought the Chargers game may be the tell-all game where you're going up against a battered offensive line without Quinton Johnston, their wide receiver 1. You have a old Keenan Allen out there, Ladd McConkey, who's pretty good. The defense has looked a little shaky the past couple weeks. They just got absolutely cooked by Jaden Daniels, and you lost in crippling fashion where the offense was stagnant until about the fourth quarter, and then that's where the scoring picked up again. But then ultimately your defense couldn't hold the Chargers, and Ladd McConkey ran like 40 yards downfield to get them in the field goal range, and then he ultimately kicked the game-winning field goal. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. Brian Callahan just got fired, Tennessee Titans head coach, for not being able to develop Cam Ward or Will Levis. Well, Mike McDaniel can't develop Tua or can't develop an offensive scheme that is effective in right now in today's NFL. The last couple of seasons, he hasn't been able to do much. So how much leeway are we giving Mike McDaniel? He came in with a great reputation. I'm waiting to see it because the past couple seasons, it's been pretty ugly. But speaking about ugly, because I said this in the opening, I can't believe it. My entire life, everyone's been clowning the Jets, where there's even a terminology, well, it's the same old Jets. I can't believe what I saw on Sunday morning. Because somehow the Jets created a new bottom of the barrel. It's really, really bad. Justin Fields looked terrible. The defense finally stepped up. The offensive line didn't do too much that was positive, although I can't fully put it on the offensive line when Justin Fields holds on to the ball forever. They had negative 10 net passing yards. That's the first time in like 30 years we've seen that happen. But here's where it gets worse. There was a tweet that came out that said this by Michael Nania. 0 turnovers, 1+ takeaway, committed fewer than 2 penalties, and held opponents to under 250 yards in the Super Bowl era. Teams were 62-0 when checking those 4 boxes until the Jets lost yesterday. I decided to dig a tiny bit deeper, same sample, like same qualifications, and I decided to include the postseason to see maybe one team just got blown out in the postseason or absolutely dominated where there were situations like that. No, the Jets are still the only team in NFL history in the Super Bowl era to do it. It's 66-1 that record turned into, with the Jets being the only loss. The average margin of those victories, of those 66 victories, is 23.2 points. So teams that do exactly what the Jets did blow them out by 3 touchdowns, over 3 touchdowns. And the Jets didn't. They lost. They're the only team to ever lose in that particular circumstance. They had 1.44 yards per play. 1.44. Justin Fields, I said this when they acquired him. I didn't love the move. I didn't love the touch on his deep ball. I thought week 1 might have been a fluke just simply because it was a revenge game. Justin Fields playing the Steelers, who kept him benched for Russell Wilson, and then the Steelers signing Russ, who's trying to get revenge on the Jets and that whole organization. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Statistically, you read it on paper that Justin Fields doesn't have horrible statistics. But you watch the games and you're like, the Jets offense can't move. The defense isn't great. The defense actually finally showed up in this game. And really, the Broncos were selling this game every which way. They got a holding call in the end zone, which resulted in a safety. You have a third string running back and a fullback taking running back snaps on like third and shorts going nowhere. You have first of all, the only touchdown of this game, or the first touchdown of the game, was to a third string running back, or a third string tight end, excuse me. And the Jets, offensively, they just couldn't do anything. The offensive line, yeah, they had 9 sacks allowed, whatever the case may be, but watch the film. Because there were a lot of open passes that Justin Fields just didn't take. Number 82, Arian Smith, was wide open. I watched the All-22 this morning. Arian Smith was wide open on about 5 plays that Justin Fields just decided to either wait, not look, or check it down. Same thing with Mason Taylor, who, again, I thought it was a great pick. They needed a tight end. You look at some of the All-22 plays. He was wide open on some deeper routes. Justin Fields just didn't see the field. He didn't let the play develop. Now, is that play calling? Is it like, okay, we're hot, let's just get the ball out immediately? He's not letting any play develop. And on top of that, when he does, there is no play developing, and then he ends up getting sacked. It's just inopportune moments that all these sacks are coming into play. But it gets even worse because amongst 46 qualified quarterbacks within, a particular sample size, when opposing teams score 21 points, Justin Fields is the only one to not win a singular game. He's 0-25. By the way, with an average marginal loss of 12 points. So he's losing by double digits in all of these games on average. His stats aren't horrible. They're not terrible. I want to see fewer turnovers maybe. Passer rating is below average. Completion percentage is all right. 0-25 though. The Jets somehow found a new low. Now, I don't know if this is Aaron Glenn. I think the defense we have to see, though, because if the defense starts bottoming off again, well, Aaron Glenn's a defensive head coach. Normally, you have to get your side of the ball right when you're a head coach. Brandon Staley, Chargers defense was abysmal. You got to get rid of him. Anthony Lynn, the offense was a little bit shaky. Had to get rid of him. So if your side of the ball isn't right, I think you're better off as a coordinator because it clearly worked. I still don't fully understand why they fired Robert Saleh just because Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions in London against the Vikings. How is that on Robert Saleh? By the way, if you won that game or the following game, you would have been first place in the AFC East. I don't understand the firing of Robert Saleh still. To me, that makes no sense whatsoever. The offense is really bad, and now I'm actually going to give you credit. Because now you have people on WFAN saying, you know what the Jets should do? Trade for Shedeur Sanders. That, I still think, that would be a whole new can of worms that Shedeur's not ready for, Jets fans don't want, and I think that's the biggest one. The personality with the skill set and then the team, those don't blend together very well. Because Shedeur has a massive personality with an all-right skill set. That's what the scouts say. All-right skill set, nothing, you're going to shatter the whole world with. Otherwise, he would be a starter and not a 5th-round pick. And then you go over to the Jets, who can't get anything right. That's the shocking thing. The best season they had was with Mark Sanchez and Rex Ryan as your quarterback and coach. You could argue maybe, the Ryan Fitzpatrick, Todd Bowles year in 2015, maybe. Fair enough. But you look at these quarterbacks, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. You look at them on other teams and you're like, well, why couldn't they do that on the Jets? Because it's the Jets. Rodgers is having a really efficient year this year on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He went 5-12 on the Jets and didn't look very good. Somehow the Jets are finding new ways, new methods to create an even lower low. There's already a term. It's the same old Jets. No, it's not. It's somehow worse. My brother's a Jets fan. I wonder how he's feeling. Last year with Rodgers going 5-12, supposedly, Rodgers first ballot Hall of Famer. Some say, greatest thrower of the football ever. We could debate that all day. I still think, maybe Tom Brady, some great placement there, but ultimately I'm not going to have that argument with anyone today. But I just think ultimately, and then the obvious play that was the most questionable situational call I may have ever seen. Now, some might go to, was it last year with Matt Eberflus against the Detroit Lions, where Caleb Williams was just standing behind the offensive line trying to figure something out at the very end of the game. I still think, why can't Caleb Williams call a timeout, which he did literally earlier on in that exact same drive. People are like, oh, it's Matt Eberflus's fault. Well, Caleb Williams could have called timeout. And in this case, the end of the first half, what the hell were the Jets doing? Under 2 minutes left, they ran the ball 4 times, did a fake punt and 4th and 1. Okay, that makes sense. You're trying to, put up points. The final play was a 6-yard catch by Josh Reynolds. Call timeout. Get a play. No. With they literally stripped the rest of the 20 seconds out of the second quarter off and went to halftime. No timeout. No play. Really no thinking. You saw Garrett Wilson screaming at Aaron Glenn saying, what the hell are we doing? I would feel bad, but I can't expect anything better to happen. When Rodgers came over there, I was like, okay, they're going to be very viable. Because if Zach Wilson could go 7-10 and no one believes in Zach Wilson, well, now we have Rodgers, things are going to be okay. 4 plays in, tears his Achilles. It's okay. He'll get healthy. Next year when he's healthy, we'll be fine. We'll hopefully get some more talent. The offensive line sucks. We'll rebuild the offensive line. We'll maybe get another weapon or two. We'll solidify the defense. Robert Saleh gets fired. The offensive line is very underwhelming. The defense regresses post-Saleh, and you have 3 coaches and this whole, turnstile of coaching throughout the Jets organization in just this past year. And now Rodgers is actually doing pretty well over in Pittsburgh. The same old Jets does not apply, because normally that means mediocre talent, low expectations, and they somehow break that low expectation to go even lower. This is no expectations. The roster is the same, so if you thought the roster was good, you still think it's good. If you thought it was bad, it's still bad. And you're somehow going even lower because, I'll give them credit, they set NFL history. They're the first team, including the playoffs, that have 0 turnovers, 1 or more takeaways, committed fewer than 2 penalties, and held their opponent to 250 yards. They're the only team in the Super Bowl era to lose in that situation. 66-0 before Sunday morning. Now that goes to 66-1. The average margin of victory in those games was 23.2 points. More than 3 touchdowns. And they lose. Because it's the Jets. I feel bad if you're a Jets fan. The Giants now look great. Did we see them the first 3 weeks? They looked horrible, minus the Dallas game. But now we look at the Dallas defense and we realize it's so bad. I mean, think about it. Caleb Williams, who, by the way, is improving, but Caleb Williams, we don't expect him right now to throw for 4 touchdowns and 300 yards after what we saw last season, but he did that against the Cowboys defense. First of all, the Packers game was just an anomaly, because how the hell do you tie a 40-40 game when the Cowboys defense is so bad and your defense is supposed to be really good? Who the hell knows? But then Russell Wilson, who's benched for Jackson Dart, has the best game maybe of his career, and then literally 2 weeks later gets benched. And you, the New York Jets, against that same Cowboys team, play horrible. I couldn't believe the 62-0 was really bad. And then I decided, let's just check the postseason. Maybe some team, there was something weird that happened. Maybe, early in the Super Bowl era when teams are still trying to figure themselves out. No. 4 more teams won. They kept that streak. And now it goes to 66-1 with that only loss being the New York Jets. And I might add, if you look at the points score, the net passing yards, the Jets, I think, have 2 of the bottom 4. Something like that. 2 in the bottom 4, because there was -10 in this one. And I think they had another game where they were maybe in the single digits or the low teens maybe. But they had a similar game, I think, in the early 70s that was similar to this. But they won the game. This Jets team, unfortunately, did not. So, I wish I could say something positive, because Justin Fields, I didn't mind him on the Steelers. I thought he had, a lack of touch on his deep passes, but statistically, he's all right. The defense didn't show up in spots, and I'll also add this. Tyrod Taylor, apparently there were internal reports about, players wanting Justin Fields to be benched, and Aaron Glenn shut that down immediately. But Tyrod Taylor against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that we're going to discuss a little bit later, with probably who should be the frontrunner for MVP at quarterback for Tampa Bay, Tyrod Taylor actually played really well against that exact same Tampa Bay team, which, by the way, was a little bit healthier than it is right now, and nearly won if the Jets defense didn't choke late in the game. But Tyrod Taylor played pretty well in that one. I wonder what Justin Fields would do. Oh, right. The reason why he wasn't playing is because he got injured after going like 3 of 11 against the Buffalo Bills, who, by the way, Tyrod Taylor came into that game and ended up scoring a touchdown and playing all right, even though they were getting absolutely blown out by Buffalo. The Jets are creating new lows. I thought it was impossible just because of the history of the Jets. You could say, okay, what top-tier quarterback have they ever had? Joe Namath? Statistically, he's abysmal. I believe he's their only Hall of Fame quarterback in the entire franchise. What about recent history? Let's go the last 50 years. Fitzmagic? Chad Pennington? Mark Sanchez? Name me a name. You can't. I mean, really. Chiefs had Jeff Garcia. You also had, I'm forgetting his Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe, Colin Kaepernick for the 49ers as well, Alex Smith for the 49ers. I mean, Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick, Jalen Hurts, even Carson Wentz, Nick Foles. Nick Foles went on a crazy Cinderella run. Just go down. I think the only one that might beat you is the Cleveland Browns. However, Baker Mayfield was pretty good. He did win a playoff game, which is something 95% of Jets quarterbacks can say they haven't done. And in recent history, Mark Sanchez, I believe, is the only quarterback to say that they've won a playoff game. I might be wrong about that, but in the last 15 years, I'm pretty sure he's the only one who could say he won a playoff game. And if it wasn't for some bad play calling, should have been in the Super Bowl. They should have beaten the Steelers that year, but they didn't. It was a close game. Sanchez didn't play great. He played all right. Should have been in the Super Bowl that year. I believe that was the Sean Green, LaDainian Tomlinson year, if I'm not mistaken. Should have been the Super Bowl. Bad play calling late. Mark Sanchez played all right. Not great, but yeah. All right, coming up, we got to talk about that Lions-Chiefs game, as well as, I think, and I'm pretty sure you agree with me as well, Baker Mayfield should be the MVP frontrunner. He's not. We're going to talk about that Bucs-49ers game because Mac Jones is getting a lot of hate. I saw it all. He's getting a lot of hate for those 2 interceptions. We'll discuss that, as well as you have your weekly report. Week 6 is in the books. Week 7's coming up, so we're going to recap all the major headlines of Week 6 and break it down because there's a lot to get into. So that'll all happen right after this very, very short break.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show, which is that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game against the San Francisco 49ers, because Baker Mayfield did it again. We saw him last week against the Seattle Seahawks absolutely tear it up with a broken down roster, losing Emeka Ibuka last week, and then really, the offense didn't really lose anything. Really didn't. I mean, they're down Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Bucky Irving, and Emeka Ibuka, and Baker Mayfield's playing at an incredible level, led a game-winning drive to beat the Seahawks. And in this game, it's the same thing. You're already down offensive linemen. You're down all the weapons again. The defense is playing pretty nicely, and then somehow Baker Mayfield pulls it out. I can't believe it. I think Baker Mayfield, this is the redemption story, maybe, you could argue the 21st, I'm not going to say 21st century, but at least of the 2020s, I'll say so far, Baker Mayfield has been the story of this decade. So I'm just wondering, overall, how impressive do you think Baker's win was over, I'm going to say, add a little context, the battered and bruised, as normal, San Francisco 49ers?
I would say Mayfield did it again with his passing and running. Beating the 49ers handily was really quite stunning. I mean, he had 2 TDs passing and a spectacular scramble. I mean, that's a highlight reel run, his scramble to get the first down, which was really important at that point in the game. The game was up for grabs at that point. He really is something else. And after winning 4 games with last-minute scores that he engineered, the Bucs really didn't need a late comeback in this one. They were ahead quite a bit, up 30-19. Mac Jones, he put up big numbers passing, 347 yards, but as you say, people are all over him about the two interceptions. But he's out there playing with a knee and oblique injuries. I give him a lot of credit. He was driving for the potential tying score and threw a pick on 4th and 5 from the Bucs 33 with under 6 minutes left. That was a killer. But Warner broke his ankle in the game. I mean, as you say, the 49ers are all banged up. That just adds to their woes. But the Bucs are missing some players too. Evans, Godwin, Irving, and Ibuka got a hamstring injury and didn't play in the second half. Mayfield was out there playing with the 4, 5, and 6 receivers, and they played great. Johnson had that long pass to him with a spectacular catch and his circus backflip, and really quite stunning. I've seen that on TV like probably 10 times now. People are impressed with it. Mayfield 17 of 23, 256 yards and 2 TDs. White, 17 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. And Johnson, who really impressed out there, even though he's one of the lowest graded receivers on their team, 4 for 64 and 1 touchdown. On the other side, I mentioned Mac Jones, 27 of 39, 347, no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. McCaffrey, 17 for 54 and 1 TD. And Bourne, he and Mac Jones are really, the chemistry there is great. 5 catches for 142 yards. He keeps having these great games. He should be out there starting when Brock Purdy comes back, too, I think.
Well, I think that right now, when it comes to the San Francisco, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield deserves the MVP. I really don't think there should be any competition. Josh Allen has looked all right. All right. These 2 losses hurt because he hasn't looked good. He's turned the ball over a lot. Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield's putting up better numbers, I think, than Mahomes is. Also, he's winning games, late games, game-winning drives, come from behind victories. He's doing it in a better fashion with a more difficult route because he's down Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving, Emeka Ibuka, already down 2 starting offensive linemen, and he's executing at an incredibly high level against some very difficult competition. Mahomes loses a wide receiver, too, and we're like, is the dynasty over? They look a little shaky. What's happening with Mahomes? The offense looks a little bit off. And then Xavier Worthy comes back and it's like, oh, no. Mahomes needs these types of guys to do his gadget plays and these weird things all around. Mayfield's out here just slinging the football. That's all he's doing. This is the first game where Baker Mayfield could actually line up in victory formation and end the game on terms where he doesn't need to go and try to win the game for him because the game's already won. Think about this. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by Baker Mayfield, who was a pushover a number of years ago by the Cleveland Browns, then the Carolina Panthers. The Rams already had Matt Stafford, so they wouldn't bring him back. Now the Bucs have him. He has the Bucs in the position of the 1st seed in the NFC. while having the 20th best rushing team in the NFL and the 24th ranked scoring defense. So he's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. Think about this also. At Baker Mayfield at quarterback, he's let his past 2 offensive coordinators, they've both become head coaches. Now, the situations may be a little rough. The Jaguars, their defense is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But ultimately, wins are wins right now. And then the Panthers, they're interesting now. They're a very strange team. But they are winning the past couple weeks. So it's a good story so far, and Dave Canales is doing a fine job. But think about this, though. Think about the story of Baker Mayfield. Where do we draw the line between cockiness and confidence? Because I would say confidence is you have that big ego, but can back it up consistently. Cockiness is, well, you have that big ego and you do it occasionally, but ultimately you can't live up to the ego that you're portraying. And Baker Mayfield early on in his career had the massive ego, was doing all these progressive commercials, but he was playing for the Cleveland Browns and that whole situation with Hugh Jackson and not winning a lot of games, winning a playoff game, but not playing great. The defense did a lot of the heavy lifting. We always talk about, the lack of success with the roster that Baker Mayfield had when it comes to the offensive line, the defense, OBJ, Jarvis Landry, who nowadays that name is obsolete. But given the moment, given the time frame, he was a perfectly fine receiver. Nick Chubb in the backfield averaging 5-6 yards a carry. It just seemed like a missed opportunity. Then the Panthers? Oh, you got humbled by the Panthers. Here's the thing. I know there's a famous quote by me out there, but I thought going into that season, I thought Baker Mayfield got screwed by the Cleveland Browns. I was rooting for him week 1 against Cleveland, and he got screwed over in that game by a stupid call. And then ultimately, it got so bad, Matt Rule at head coach failed that entire team. Then Baker Mayfield ultimately got released, picked up by the Rams, and that's where the tide turned drastically. That's where the story of Baker Mayfield changed. Because it took him, 48 hours, 36 hours to learn a playbook and then execute a game-winning drive against the Las Vegas Raiders after being there for, a day and a half, 2 days? And then he goes over to Tampa, literally the year following Brady's retirement, and puts up a very consistent performance and has only grown since then. And now we could say, perfectly fine, it's not a hot take, that Baker Mayfield is now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise quarterback, and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Because he has been one of the most clutch quarterbacks in the NFL since coming into the league, and the facts and the data back that up. On the flip side, though, this is a really unfortunate game for the 49ers. Losing Fred Warner is a massive loss. But this is not uncommon. For some reason, the 49ers, whether it's bad luck, whether it's a bad strength and conditioning team, whether it's a absolutely brutal Kyle Shanahan whole aura system mentality, whatever the case may be, they are always one of or the most banged up team in the NFL. You lose Fred Warner on top of losing Nick Bosa. You lost Dre Greenlaw in the Super Bowl. I mean, this team can't get away from injuries. But I think we got to tone it down with the Mac Jones hate for this game. What do you expect from Mac Jones? Seriously. You love him when he's 3-0, when he's throwing the most in the NFL, completing the most passes in the NFL, having the most passing yards in the NFL, and at the time having a top 12, top 13 passer rating in the NFL. What do you expect from a guy who got pushed around by the New England Patriots, then went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, was a backup to Trevor Lawrence, and when he came in, didn't look great? What are the expectations? I always had faith that Mac Jones, with some talent, could be competent, and he is. That first interception, miscommunication. Him and I think Kendrick Bourne weren't on the same page. He was supposed to cut more to the right as an out route. He kind of just sat on it and turned around to the left. It was a miscommunication. It happens. It got intercepted, whatever the case may be. The second one was clearly forced, Mac trying to make a play. But regardless of the case, Mac Jones has been playing at an A- level. When really, do we want to even give him a B? Is he a C+? What is Mac Jones to people? People say he's a D- or an F. What do you say Mac Jones is as a quarterback rating?
No, I would give him B+.
You would say, so outside of Kyle Shanahan's system.
Outside of his system?
That's what I'm saying. Mac Jones, the quarterback.
Oh.
What is Mac Jones, the quarterback, rating-wise?
Maybe a B if you take him outside of the system.
Okay. So, that 2021 year, I would agree. He's a B. And then Belichick screwed him over. But if we're saying that all of a sudden a B quarterback is playing at an A level, what do you expect when the only thing you can rely on is a quarterback who's outplaying himself?
Well, I think
they can't run the football.
I think that's a factor. There's not much of a running game there. He's playing hurt. I think that's big. He has a knee injury and an oblique injury. And the wide receiver core is depleted.
Yeah.
Although having Kendrick Bourne there and having the experience with him when he was with the Patriots has shown up big here.
Oh,
and
massive.
Those guys have been really pretty special out there playing together. So in the 49ers system, I think he's exceeded expectations.
Right.
Because no one expected him to even play, right? And he came off the bench. And he's excelled in 3 games, 3-0, and in this last game, he did pass for 347 yards, and they had a huge injury on defense. So, and he was, he got intercepted, but it was a 4th and 5, so he had to do something. So I don't hold that one against him, and I don't know why they're hating on him. I don't think that's appropriate.
Well, I think ultimately, again, it's the expectation. All of a sudden, you have expectations of Mac Jones to lead all these game-winning drives and win all these games when people thought he was a bust as a first-round pick.
No, but he started doing it. That's why, they're hating on him now because they expected him to play like he did the 3 games he won.
Right, but then people, I guess, are oblivious to the fact of what the expectations were. Same thing with Sam Darnold on the Minnesota Vikings. What's the Vikings record going to be? Oh, and Sam Darnold, maybe last in the division. They go 14-3. Now he's leading the Seahawks to be a serious playoff contender this year and went toe-to-toe against this Baker Mayfield-led offense.
No, I think
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Darnold is for real, for sure.
I mean, again, how far could he go? But him to JSN is a beautiful connection. He had a beautiful throw.
It was a smart move to trade Geno away and pick up Darnold. That looks pretty good for the Seahawks front office.
100%. But I just think, again, it's about expectations. Mac Jones, and I said this, I have faith in him, but I'm also not naive. It's the Kyle Shanahan system. If anyone was like, well, no, it's the quarterback, Mac Jones is playing at an A- level. He went 3-0, and they're literally asking him to do everything. He's averaging 42 attempts per game.
Yeah.
He has over 300 yards per game.
Plus, they can tee off on him because they know the running game is not great.
The running game can't do anything. Christian McCaffrey, because of the amount of usage he has to get, he looks a little slow towards the end of the game. He doesn't look as nimble and mobile as he does maybe 2 weeks ago.
Plus, our offensive line is not what it was.
The interior of the offensive line is rough. And Mac Jones, he's very immobile. He looks like a blob trying to run out there. So you have no QB sneak. You have nothing, and Mac Jones is he made some great throws in this game.
Yeah,
he was
got a good arm.
He was moving the ball up and down the field. He had a couple beautiful deep shots. Kendrick Bourne, was it DeMarcus Robinson had a great catch. He's throwing to guys that haven't caught passes in the NFL. We're talking about third stringers. We're talking about. It's a really unfortunate loss. There were opportunities to be had for Mac Jones, but ultimately you're asking a quarterback who's playing far above his pay grade to all of a sudden lead you to the promised land when, guess what? That wasn't even the expectation when he arrived in San Francisco because this was supposed to be Brock Purdy's year, and then he ended up getting injured. And by the way, you look at the numbers, look at the data, Brock Purdy, who's been playing with more guys than Mac Jones has, Mac Jones is outplaying him. You could argue with a brick wall about that. That's what the data says. So people could argue with a wall about that, but he has. And by the way, not close. What's called passer rating wise, not close. EPA, kind of close. But Mac Jones, he's still number 1 in completions per game, number 1 in attempts per game, number 1 in passing yards per game because they have no running game. They need Mac Jones to do. On the Patriots, a 300-yard game was an anomaly for Mac. He's done it basically every single game with the Niners.
Yeah, it's pretty good. He looks good out there. His passes are very, like lasers.
I don't love his throwing
He's very
motion.
accurate. He's very accurate. I think he's proven that he deserves a an opportunity to start somewhere, and we'll see what happens next year.
I think it'll be
Or maybe
interesting.
the rest of this year. I don't know. Brock Purdy, is he coming back next week? Do we know?
We're not sure. Kyle Shanahan's not sure. He'll be back. Just we're not sure when.
Yeah. Okay.
Supposedly, George Kittle should be back, I think, for week 7 or after week 7. So we'll see.
Okay.
Let's get into this game, though. Sunday Night Football. It was the Lions and the Chiefs. There was a lot of controversy. You open up the game, the Lions, they have that penalty, and then people on X were talking about all the missed calls that the Chiefs had, a lot of holding calls. They had no penalties in the game, which was pretty nuts for a team that just had 13 the week prior. But ultimately, though, when it mattered, the Chiefs scored. The Chiefs made some big-time plays. They won 30-17. By the way, this is Goff's first loss against Patrick Mahomes. He won the prior to the Monday Night Extravaganza and then opening week a couple of years ago on the Detroit Lions. So this was a rough one to watch, I would say. I picked the Lions to win, but I want to know, were you more impressed with Kansas City's performance or more disappointed in how the Detroit Lions played?
Well, my takeaway in this game is the Chiefs got it going and played well on Sunday night in a game where Mahomes threw 3 TD passes that ended in a fight. And I would say I'm more impressed with the Chiefs' win because the Lions were on a 4-game win streak, right? And they had a lot of momentum. They came into this game very confident, having played very well the last 4 games. The offense really clicking. The running game doing extremely well. The Chiefs really in a kind of a must-win situation at 2-3. They go 2-4 and lose at home. Really didn't speak very well and would put their playoff chances in deep jeopardy. So I was impressed that the Chiefs came out and played the way they did. I think that the Chiefs had no penalties, no turnovers. That speaks to a very disciplined, well-coached team, which they've always been. The Lions defense, they're banged up. They're missing Reed, Arnold, and Maddox, and they still played decent, and I like the Lions a lot. I think they were disappointed that they didn't play better. I mean, their running game, Gibbs 17 for 65, Montgomery 4 for only 24. That's not very good. Williams, the wide receiver, 6 for 66. Laporta 5 for 55, and Goff, good accuracy-wise, 23 of 29, 203 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I'm sure the Lions are disappointed in their performance. On the other hand, Mahomes is playing well this year. I think he's playing better this year than he did last year. 22 of 30, 257, and the 3 TDs that I mentioned. Pacheco, I mean, their running game, they really still haven't gotten that going. Pacheco, 12 for 51. Kelsey out there, 6 for 78. That was good for him. And just a 3 for 57. But a lot of receivers involved in this game, and Mahomes spreading the ball around. Great game by Mahomes and the Chiefs. I thought in the defense, stopping the Lions' running game or minimizing the damage from it, I thought was great. And then Brian Brant's hitting Schuster at the end of the game with a right hook. That's uncalled for. And even Dan Gamble said, that we don't. That's not our team, and there's no place for somebody like that on our team. So I don't know what's going to happen to Brian Branch.
He's suspended without pay for a game.
Okay.
Which is against Tampa, I might add, which is interesting.
Yeah. So I still like the Lions to be a contender in the NFC. Looks like the Chiefs are found it now. They've, that game they lost against the Jaguars are very surprising to me that they lost that game and the way they lost it. And I think it was a wake-up call in a way, and they showed it on Sunday night.
Well, I think that for me, obviously, because I picked this team, although you just take a look at the team culture and the team story, like I was very much more disappointed in the Lions than I was impressed with the Chiefs. Because I think the Lions started off exactly what I think a lot of teams should do if you have a level of confidence, if you have a level of success against Mahomes, and I don't know, you think for 2 seconds and say, what side do we want to, allow them to potentially set the tone of how this game's going to go? Us or a 3-time Super Bowl champion with the greatest offensive coach, one of the greatest tight ends of all time, and arguably, already a top 5 quarterback of all time? Who do we want to set the tone? The Lions said, we do. Smart. And that's exactly what they did. They ran up and down the field that opening drive with Jared Goff looking lights out on his passes. The running game was all right, and I'll get into that in a second. But Jared Goff made some crazy throws, kept the sticks moving, and then you get down to maybe the 3-inch line, and you pass it on a trick play that was illegal that Dan Campbell still doesn't fully understand how it's illegal. Fine. But why don't you run the ball in that circumstance? At the 10-yard line, at the 7-yard line, all you were doing is running and getting closer and closer and closer and closer. You needed to go 3 inches. Jared Goff could take it. Hell, put a lineman in the backfield and push him. Do a tush push. Put Sam Laporta there. Put Wright the tight end there. Put whoever you want there. Hand the ball off. Just push. You have to go literally reach over the end. Jared Goff's done that before. That's all you have to do. I thought that was really bad. But I don't really care about the trick play because it technically, yes, it was a legal formation. Jared Goff needed to stop for a second. If he did that, it would have been a successful play. And I do like how they opened the game with 2 trick plays. They did the Amon-Ra catch and then, hand it off right after he catches the ball. And then this one right at the goal line. So I like the creativity, but ultimately I think that, again, another great team didn't play into a Chiefs weakness because for some reason they didn't run play action as often as they have been the entire season. They ran it about 18% of the time, which is the second lowest that they've run it this year besides their blowout against Cleveland. But they've run it 38, 44, 50% of the time in these games, and then they ran it about 18%, and Kansas City is dead last while defending the play action. Hell, the Chiefs with a worse running attack and one that didn't perform as well, they ran play action over 32% of the time. They can't run the ball effectively. But yet they stuck with it. They ran play action a bunch. They ran 11 personnel, which forced the Lions into man defense, or base defense, So they couldn't, switch it up to nickel or change their defensive formation. They had to stick with what I guess they do best against 11 personnel. I thought the defense, it was very underwhelming. After, what they've been doing recently with their great game planning in crucial moments against Baltimore, against the offense. Don't worry about the defense. Baltimore's defense is abysmal. But what they did against Lamar Jackson, yes, they allowed 30 points, but when it mattered, though, we saw Lamar Jackson in the red zone look lost, confused, and nervous, stopped Derrick Henry at the 1, forced a strip sack, turnover on downs for Lamar right by the red zone. And in this one, they allowed a 3rd and 18 check down pass that went 17 yards. They stopped him on 4th down, although some could argue it was DPI. But the fact that you even allowed the Chiefs to get even that close to potentially converting on a 3rd and 18 was a bit ridiculous. I thought that they played a lot of weird coverages. A lot of guys are wide open. No defenders on the screen, really. Xavier Worthy had a couple great plays, and they always do that jet sweep motion right by the goal line. They did it in the Super Bowl to win. They did it for Xavier Worthy in this one to score a touchdown. I believe they may have also done it with Hollywood Brown to score a touchdown. They do this a lot. So it's unfortunate that the Lions couldn't exactly catch on it, but here's the most disappointing part of it for me. This should have been a 35-40 pass attempt game for Jared Goff. It ended up being a 29, but Jared Goff should have threw it way more. Because Jared Goff on early downs, they ran it in the first half 77% of the time on first down. The runs were 4 yards, 4 yards, 2 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, 13 yards, technically an explosive play, 6 yards, 5 yards, 15 yards, 6 yards, 5 yards, 2 yards, minus 3 yards. Those were all of their first down runs. The first down passes, 15 yards, minus 1 yard, 5 yards, 15 yards, 23 yards, 12 yards, 11 yards, 6 yards, 14 yards, 5 yards, 9 yards. 10.3 yards an attempt. He went 11 of 11 on first down, compared to 5.07 yards a carry for the running game. And second down, Jared Goff went 8 of 10, 4.7 yards an attempt, and a touchdown, and the running game went 3.16 yards a carry. I thought that the game planning was a bit rough. Yes, you have a brand new OC and needs to get, some kinks worked out against a serious competitor like Steve Spagnuolo's defense, and ultimately living up to the matchup of versing the Kansas City Chiefs, who just made it to the Super Bowl. And made it to what? 3 straight, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6. So I understand it was a tall task for a new set of coordinators. But I do think that the defense was a bit lackluster. The tackling was a bit bad. I thought that the coverages were a little soft. Travis Kelce could go anywhere he wanted to. He normally does that, but not a lot of chip blocks to maybe throw Kelce off at the line of scrimmage. There was a third down where you could have had your lineman chip him for a second and maybe get him off. I thought Amik Robertson, I believe it was on the Xavier Worthy touchdown. He tried to press, and because Xavier Worthy is too shifty, he just did a little juke move, completely evaded the press coverage, and was able to score the touchdown. But I think that game planning wise, it was poor. I think that offensively, you should have thrown it way more than you did. I understand clock management, keep the ball moving, but you were throwing it at such an effective level on first down. How about this? You throw it on first down, then you run it 2 more times. That would be better than running it on first down 77% of the time, and your offense puts up what? 10 points in the first half? 6 points in the first? I think it was 10 points in the first half. But use what's working. That's the issue. You've been doing play action at such a high rate. Jared Goff, I think, has the second highest passer rating in play action, one of the highest completion percentages. He might be third. He's number 1 in EPA in play action. Like, he's a top 3 quarterback in play action, and they ran it 18% of the time when they're running it 44, 38, 45.
I think that's a good point, but I do think the Lions are a ground and pound. They like to think of themselves as ground and pound, I think.
Got to put David Montgomery out there more than they
did. Sonic and Knuckles. I mean, they have that moniker and that theme
sure.
that they're going to beat you up, and that's what they were trying to do, and it didn't work.
Well, I think also the Chiefs just played a more physical style of football. That's something else I was disappointed about. It's all about biting kneecaps and physicality with finesse as well. Ground and pound, like you said. Dan Campbell, go for it on 4th down. And the Chiefs just said, we're going to play bully ball. So much so that Brian Branch said he was getting bullied out on the field. You're playing professional football. People getting heads bashed into one another. Grow a pair a little bit.
Yeah, and punching a guy at the end of the game after it's over when they're walking off the field.
They embarrassed you.
That's an embarrassment.
They're embarrassed. Yeah, and Dan Campbell, rightfully so, as a head coach should, unlike what Mike McDaniel did and just said, a bunch of nothing, essentially. He should be a politician, by the way. Mike McDaniel would be a great, great politician. He just goes on and on and on. You lose interest about 3 seconds after he starts speaking. Dan Campbell took accountability, said that's not what we do here. It's not what they do. They're a significantly better culture than that. It's disappointing. He's suspended for a game. But I think ultimately, no. I think that the Chiefs just did what they normally do. And good teams in big spots also, unfortunately, do what they normally do. They don't play to either their strength or the Chiefs' weakness. Chiefs were dead last against play action. You run it 18% of the time, the second fewest this season. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
They ran it 77% of the time.
They ran it on first down 77% of the time. They ran play action.
Oh, play action only 18%
of the time. A little over 18%. I think the number is 19.4% of the time. You're running it 38%, 44% throughout the season. Mahomes with no running game ran it over 32% of the time. They have no running game. There's no real, the threat of play action isn't there when you can't run the football. To me, it didn't make a lot of sense. It was an unfortunate situation because I thought the Lions, they looked good. The offense looked good in spots. They rebounded. The Chiefs scored a touchdown. The Lions respond with a Jamison Williams touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And then the offense just goes cold.
This game proved to me the Chiefs are good.
Very good.
And they have Rashee Rice coming back.
He's back, yeah.
And they got to get their running game going a little more, and they got to get just a little better on defense. And then I think they're going to be right in it again.
Well, Mahomes just became a co-favorite for MVP, as well as the Chiefs are now co-favorites for the Super Bowl.
Oh.
Tied with the Buffalo Bills, who I also don't think, after losing to the Atlanta Falcons.
They've kind of fallen off a little bit.
That game was ugly. I'm sure we'll get into it when you do your weekly recap. It's a good win for the Chiefs. They look like they're back. I just feel like this was a complete missed opportunity. And even, Joseph, the safety for the Detroit Lions, said that playing Mahomes isn't really that hard.
Oh, yeah?
Kirby Joseph.
He had 3 touchdowns.
Right. And also, you lost by, 13 points. You got decimated when it mattered. Third downs, you got cooked. Second and longs, you're getting absolutely obliterated. They're going 8, 9 yards. You was a 3rd and 18, and you let Juju Smith-Schuster, who, by the way, it was like a 4-yard pass behind the line of scrimmage, run 17 yards to a 4th and 1.
Yeah.
You ended up stopping them, but it shouldn't have even come to a 4th and 1 potential conversion. So what are you gonna do? Coming up, we're going to take a very, very short break, but coming up, you have your weekly report, basically, where we break down every single game, every single week. We're breaking down week 6 for most games, because obviously we just covered a few. But yeah, that'll be right after this break.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast, your food podcast, your mindfulness podcast, your never thought you'd get this far podcast, and watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the content.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen and find out who they're cooking with, where they're finding inner balance, and why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on this Tuesday. A lot to talk about. Thank you for supporting the channel as always and being here on a Tuesday evening. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's wrap up with the last topic of today's show, which is interesting. I like your examples, your takeaways, your puns, your poems. I like it. I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, but let's begin. It's the weekly report. Every single week throughout the NFL season, you give your headline, your takeaway, your key takeaway from each of the games. So let's start. Let's head over across the pond to London, the Jets and the Broncos. What is your takeaway for this game?
Well, the headline is Jets allow 9 sacks and London lost. My key takeaway is the Jets defense plays well for a change, but the O-line has a collapse. 9 sacks of Fields shows Aaron Glenn hasn't figured out how to fill all the gaps. You went through the whole game. We don't need to go through it. I would say the one thing I would say about the game, it was an ugly win for the Broncos.
Oh, big time.
It was ugly for them.
Big time.
And Bo Nix, 19 of 30, 174 yards and a touchdown. That wasn't too sterling. And the running game, 14 for 40. Evan Ingram, their leading receiver, 5 for 42. They hardly played great. And they're going to have to pick it up some if they think they're going to be a playoff team after a game like that.
I will say, because I focused on the Jets in my take, Bo Nix looked bad. I think Sean Payton in the press conferences and in the interviews, he exudes a lot of confidence in Bo Nix. And then on 3rd and longs is saying, check it down. Throw the short pass.
Yeah.
Instead of, going for the first down. And then on top of the fact, the penalties in unfortunate spots. You have a holding call in the end zone resulting in a safety.
The other thing I'd say,
this was a terrible game for the
about
Broncos.
the Jets, despite how poorly they played on offense, they were driving for the winning score at the end.
Yeah.
And it was only that Fields got sacked, 4th and 8. From the Denver 44 that ended their drive there. And you know what? Aaron Glenn, his decision-making, too. Why didn't he let Nick Folk try a field goal? I mean, it would have been a long one, right? But he was 3 for 3. Why not let him try?
He's a bit old. He's a bit old to be kicking 58-yard field goals.
You know what? Why not let him try?
I would have
let him try there.
I agree with you.
Given the way they were sacking Fields all day long, why not let him try it? And then the other, they faked a punt, and then they asked Glenn why let the clock run. I said I didn't want to take the risk.
What risk?
What risk? I mean, there was no time left. He was going to throw it all the way down. Plus, he took a pretty big risk by faking a punt. So I'm not sure Aaron Glenn knows what he's doing at this point.
It's a bit rough. All right, let's get into the next one here. What's the next one?
The Pittsburgh
let's
Browns.
Here we go.
Okay, so the headline, Steelers handle Browns easily, and I thought that was the case. The Steelers offense with 335 total yards and Rodgers throwing for 2 TDs is starting to gel. But for the Browns, with Dylan Gabriel, their offense looked like it was hit with a bombshell.
You know what's funny? Jalen Ramsey got a tackle right by the Browns sideline. He points to Shador. I think it might have been a Dylan Gabriel scramble bootleg out. Jalen Ramsey tackles him and points over to Shador Sanders.
Yeah. Well, Rodgers, 235 yards, 2 DDs, no sacks. Steelers defense pummeled Gabriel, 6 sacks, 16 quarterback hits. 22nd straight time the Steelers have beat the Browns at home. Stefanski's Browns now 1-5. You know, I don't know about Stefanski, whether he's going to be in there for the long haul. He's had some pretty bad years here for quite a long time now. It's been 2 years. He had Flacco 2 years ago. They managed to make the playoffs, but the last 2 years are very poor.
Well,
right?
I think, Rodgers is playing, again, he's not lighting up the scoreboard, and PFF has him as one of the lowest graded quarterbacks, but he's winning games.
Yeah.
He's leading the AFC North right now.
He's clicking with Metcalf now. 4 receptions for Metcalf, 95 yards.
He also had that big touchdown
that
overseas as well to Metcalf. It was an 80-yard touchdown or something like that. So they're making the plays that matter, and ultimately I think this is going to be a very good connection.
Yeah, and look at the division they're in.
Right. They're playing the 1-5 Ravens, the 1-5 Browns, and the Bengals, who are now starting a 40-year-old quarterback who just led this team you beat the crap out of. I mean, and by the way, I believe you're playing them on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an absolutely brutal loss. What's the next
Chargers, Dolphins. Chargers pulled out the 29-27 win. You talked about the Dolphins game, and my key takeaway there is 40-yard return by Hines set up Herbert to hit McConkey for 42 yards and a pass in the final minute to set up the winning field goal. And Harbaugh said Herbert, with 2 TDs, played like Hercules. But the last-second win against the Dolphins was hardly a breeze. It wasn't easy for them. They had to win it in the last minute, and it was a field goal, and Dicker had 5 field goals in this game. And Harbaugh said on the play that I just mentioned, that 40-yard, the Herbert to McConkey for 42 yards to get him in the field goal range. He says, I'm going to remember that play until they throw dirt on the top of me. The Dolphins come back from 10 down in the fourth quarter to take the lead by 1, left too much time on the clock. 46 seconds for the Chargers. Tua, 3 interceptions. Second time this year he's had 3 interceptions. Miami 1-5. The McDaniel watch continues. I think just to comment on your take about Tua's comment. I thought it was totally inappropriate for him to be making that comment, particularly after he'd just thrown 3 interceptions, and maybe one of them wasn't his fault, but still 3 interceptions. Plus, it was out of context, because McDaniel came back and was very angry about this, a misguided representation of players' orchestrated film session. They orchestrated it. It was on their own, and that it was not the appropriate forum to air such grievances. I agree with him 100%, even though I'm not a big McDaniel fan. I think Tua is totally out of it was totally wrong for him to do what he did there.
Well, think about it. The Chargers are down. They're starting left tackle. They're starting right tackle. Then you have the backup right guard who moved to right tackle who was out for this game. They have the 3rd worst graded center in the NFL. You're on your 4th string offensive lineman. And you also have a tackle who's out there who's rated 105th out of 113 tackles. And you generate the 19th best pass rush in week 6.
Yeah.
That's an embarrassment. Overall, it's a complete embarrassment. And McDaniel's responsible. Tua saying that absurd comment about leadership. He wears a C on the chest. The players, he's a representation of the players. He's
trying
going
to start some sort of quarterback, some controversy in the locker room.
He does that. That's the issue.
So I think they tell him to shut up, or maybe sit him down for a game. That might be a better thing to do.
Let's go to the next game.
Patriots Saints. Patriots win 25-19. The win gave the Pats a 4-2 record in first place in the AFC East with Drake May and the defense playing like beasts. I was pretty impressed that they were able to win that game on the road. They could have said that was a trap game. May, 3 TDs, 18 for 26, 261 yards, no turnovers. That's key for him. Booty, 2 TD catches, 5 catches for 93 yards. Plus he had a big catch near the end of the game that iced it for them. The Saints were driving in the fourth quarter for a go-ahead score, but Juwan Johnson fumbled, and on a first down catch over the middle, it was forced by Ellis. Vrabel, our guys are aware it can be better, and I think that's true. I mean, this was quite a close game. If that turnover hadn't happened, the Saints could have won that game. The Saints have lost 3 games by a TD or less. The Saints only had 73 yards on the ground. Rattler, I think, looking a little better, right? 20 of 26, 227. I think he's won 1 of 11 now in his career as a starter. They don't have much of a running game. They do have some pretty good wide receivers, but Olave didn't play well in this game. I like Booty. I think, thank God they hung on to him, even though Belichick hated him. I think that he's a keeper, and Diggs really didn't have much of a game here, and the running game was terrible.
I will give you credit. You never gave up on Booty.
Yeah, I didn't. You know what? I had him picked very high in the draft that year, too.
You did.
In fact, I had him one of the best-rated receivers in the draft, and he's proving that he's a good player.
I will say this was one of the worst officiated games I've seen in a little while.
Yeah.
Random pass interference calls that didn't exist. OPIs on Stephon Diggs where he barely even touched them. Late penalties from guys who aren't even part of the play. I think that, there was a touchdown, I think, that was denied by a penalty. This game should have been a blowout for the Patriots, and because of penalties and really bad officiating, that Mike Vrabel called comical. I think that the Patriots should have done much better than having it as a 6-point victory. But, hey, they win, they cover. It was a Harvey hot hand pick. We had a winning week this week, so that's that.
Okay, on to the Rams-Ravens. Lamarless Ravens dropped to 1-5. The Rams win 17-3. The Ravens scored a field goal on their first drive and no points after that. My takeaway here: the defense played better and gave the Rams a scare, but without Lamar, the Ravens don't have much of a prayer. The Ravens had, as I mentioned, a field goal on the opening drive and nothing more. They've scored 13 points in 2 games. They couldn't score on the 1st and goal from the 4-yard line. That was pretty bad. Rush, 11 of 19 for 72 yards and interception, and lost a fumble. They benched him for Huntley, and Huntley came in and played pretty decent. He had 10 of 15 for 68 yards. He drove him down the field, and they turned it over on downs. He couldn't get that touchdown in the end zone there. So maybe they'll start him if Lamar can't come back here sometime soon. Turnovers by Flowers hurt, I just think, maybe the Ravens can get their defense going. They're getting some players back now. If they can get Lamar back, it's really late now. They're 1-5. They have to win out here, I think, in order to, or maybe lose just one more to have a chance. But they're in a division that is, the Steelers. That's it right now. So they still have some games against opponents in the division that are winnable. The Rams, on the other hand, this is a game they had to win, and they did. Stafford, credible game here, 17 of 26, 181 and a touchdown. Williams, not much from the running game there, 13 of 50, 1 touchdown. Corum got in the game, right? Remember him from Michigan. He had 5 carries for 23 yards. And the receivers, Higbee 4 for 40 and Adams 4 for 39. Nakua got hurt in this game. He was in and out of the game, so they didn't throw it that much to him. But it's a good win for the Rams. Ravens still trying to find themselves.
This was the most nerve-wracking and most hair-pulling win that the Rams could have had, because you almost lost to a team that does not have a defense, that is currently on a backup quarterback who ultimately got benched in this game. I'll give Derrick Henry had a very good game.
Yeah, he did.
24 carries over 100 yards.
That. Yeah, he did.
I mean, Puka Nacua is screaming. The red zone sucks. What are we doing? Why we shouldn't have our kicker out here? I agree. This was a Harvey hot hand pick, and it barely. Thank God for Tyler Huntley late screwing it up at the very end of the game, but barely won, I should say. The Rams. Someone in my TikTok comment says, you think the Rams are an elite team? I say, well, we go based on record, technically, because they were trying to say something about the record or whatever the case may be. All I'll say is they started off red hot. Defense locked down, offense explosive. we're hitting liquid nitrogen cool levels right now. They're almost frozen because 17 points against a team that just allowed 44 for an offense that averaged 12.6 that are non-Titans games. I'm concerned for the Rams a little bit against a team that this game shouldn't have even been this close.
Yeah, well, Derrick Henry, 24 carries for 122 yards, helped him a lot.
I agree with that. All right, let's go to the next one. I'm excited for this one.
Colts, Cardinals.
Okay. I'm very upset about this game.
Colts 31, Cardinals 27. Taylor runs the ball well, and Jones makes the crucial plays that pulled out the win against the Cardinals on Sunday. Jones, 2 TDs. Taylor, go-ahead rushing TD with 4:32 left. The offense is dominated in the second half. There were no punts. The Cardinals have lost 4 straight, 2 by blowing fourth-quarter leads. They got to the Colts' 9-yard line at the end, but turned it over on downs. Jacoby Brissett, 27 of 44, 320 yards, 2 TDs, and 1 interception. We haven't heard his name for a long time. But Daniel Jones, 22 of 30, 212 yards, 2 TDs, and interception. He also had 5 rushes for 20 yards. And Jonathan Taylor, 21 carries, 123 yards, 1 touchdown. I like the Colts. I think they're this year's Cinderella team.
Well, hey, I'll say this. Lou Anarumo needs to be fired again because his defense against the Cardinals, it was an embarrassment of several levels because you had Jacoby Brissett out there. They also had their third-string running back starting for them. The offensive line isn't great, and the defense is And you allow them to lead for massive parts of this game? You won. Great. It goes up as a win in that column. This game, again, should have been a blowout. Because if the Colts are what the data says and what their record says, and also their point differential says, they should be much better than they are. And you let Jacoby Brissett and a third-string running back because they benched DeMarcado after his, throw it, at the back of the end zone, essentially. You allow this team to be that close to beating you. It really, talk about nerve-wracking and being that close to stupidity. That's what this game is. And that defense couldn't stop anything. You and I could probably gain about 50 yards on that defense.
Indiana Jones. That's what they're calling him out there.
He's played great.
He's playing great.
He's played great.
Yeah, I agree with you. That defense
is going to be the downfall of them.
Could be.
I think that, seriously, if this team had an average defense, they could win a playoff game or two. You go up against Buffalo's defense, Daniel Jones is going to do something. I know. It's crazy to think. Buffalo just let Michael Penix Jr. and Bijan. What is Jonathan Taylor going to do against that Buffalo Bills defense?
Yeah, well,
think about that.
Bijan had 170 yards. I
think he overtook
Penix at 250 passing.
All I'm saying is the defense was terrible. So I think that will be the downfall for this Colts team. They look great though. This is the Cinderella story of the NFL.
Maybe they'll find a way to fix it.
I agree with that.
Okay, on to the Seahawks and Jaguars. Seahawks 20, Jaguars 12. Darnold outduels Lawrence, who was sacked 7 times by a Seahawks defense that is playing in its prime. Seattle dominated both lines of scrimmage. Darnold, I took what they gave me and didn't try to force anything. Jigba, 8 receptions for 162 yards. Jaguars, I don't think they were ready to play. After their big win against the Chiefs, they were asleep out there. They made 10 penalties for 76 yards. Lawrence sacked 7 times. ATN, 12 carries for 27 yards. 54-yard TD pass to Thomas, nullified because Hunter lined up off sides. They weren't ready to play. That's on Liam Cohen. No, the Jags didn't have any takeaways this game. First time this year. Darnold, 16 for 27, 295 yards, 2 TDs. Great game for him. Walker, 10 for just 34.
Doesn't have my fantasy team.
I mentioned 8 for 162 yards. Lawrence, 27 of 42, 258 and 2 touchdowns, but again, sacked 7 times. ATN, they had no running game, 12 for 27. Thomas had 8 for 90, but he dropped one. He was wide open on a third down. He was out there all by himself and just dropped it. Hunter only had 4 catches for 15 yards. He's really not doing that much for the Jaguars.
I drafted him on my fantasy team. He has done nothing. And I think that is strictly lack of scheming him into the plays.
Yeah.
Now, some of it early on was, making business decisions, but I do think ultimately you have to get him going somehow. Because he's doing okay on defense, not doing too much, but he's doing nothing on offense. And I will say, that touchdown throw to JSN was one of the most beautiful passes I have ever seen Sam Darnold throw. It couldn't have been thrown better. JSN right now, Offensive Player of the Year, this needs to be a serious discussion.
Yeah.
Because he is playing out of his mind right now. Him and Puka Nacua, they should be the only two contenders for the number one wide receiver and right now for Offensive Player of the Year, because they are playing out of their minds. And then Cooper Kupp, he got a touchdown in this game too, so got him involved a little bit. But no, this was a big-time win, and this is what I've been saying. What does this team, with Trevor Lawrence, a quarterback, not playing that well, what does this team do when their defense doesn't bail them out?
They lose.
They score 12 points, and Sam Darnold throws for nearly 300 yards, and 20 points is all right. The defense didn't let Kenneth Walker run, 6 inches, and that hurt my fantasy team. But Sam Darnold, again, I'm going to do another breakdown maybe for a topic of the Harvey Hour, because the amount of quarterbacks that we consider busts or terrible quarterbacks, then they go to a okay, decent, or good coaching staff and are legitimate, serious playoff contenders and even Super Bowl contenders is shocking.
I know. It's really something.
We'll see what the Titans do with the next move with Cam Ward. Maybe he could be one of those reclamation projects that we've seen Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, hell, Mac Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo was one of those, although...
Will Levis.
I remember that first game, the amount of hype we had for Will Levis, that first game where he was just chucking deep passes and completing them. We had a lot of hype for him. And then last season might have been the ugliest season I've ever seen. He literally threw the game away. Legitimately,
I think one of the
amount of pick sixes.
There are a lot of quarterbacks we can make that discussion about.
Jalen Hurts right now is one of them.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, he needs an offense that operates through the run.
Yeah.
You cannot let him be the sole passer.
But, Geno Smith going over to play with Pete Carroll again. Pete Carroll gave him his chance, and Geno played very well under that. It's a disappointment, right? I'm surprised by that.
Well, speaking about potential reclamation projects, if I'm sure this is one of your gonna
Dallas against Carolina.
Well, maybe we'll see Bryce Young.
Dallas 27, Carolina 30. Dowdle does it again, and Carolina win with 239 yards from scrimmage. It wasn't a huge surprise given Dallas's defensive image. Dowdle makes a statement against former teammates. It was personal, he said. The Cowboys outgained on the ground by 216 to 31. Young was 17 to 25, 199, 3 touchdowns. McMillan, 2 TDs, his first touchdowns in the NFL. Prescott, 25 of 34, 261, and 3 touchdowns. Schottenheimer, they were able to run it, and we weren't. Williams had 13 carries for 29 yards. Why'd they let Dowdle go? I don't get it. Pickens, 9. They wasted his effort. 9 catches, 168 yards, and 1 touchdown. The Panthers are 3-0 at home. I think they found something. If they can run the ball 200 yards a game, they're going to win, right?
The Dallas defense is terrible. I really think this is a facade. Because what we just saw is we saw what the Panthers did against two of the 3 worst defenses in the NFL. Miami is the worst defense against the run.
Yeah.
Dallas is the worst defense in the NFL. I'm saying just lower your expectations just a little bit. Enjoy this moment because Rico Dowdle couldn't be stopped in either of these games. 200 yards or more.
Yeah.
But I think we have to understand. You're playing against 2 of the 3 worst defenses in the NFL. I want to see maybe going up against by the way, he's 1,000-yard back, so it adds to your point, why the hell did Dallas let him go? You're playing the Jets this week in New York.
Dowdle played well in Dallas in the second half of last year.
Right.
He was good.
Right.
Why'd they let him go? I don't get it.
Well,
he definitely made them wish they hadn't in this game.
Well, that's Jerry Jones. I'm sure he wanted to get paid a little bit, and Jerry says, I don't pay players. That's the issue.
Yeah.
So
only a few.
Maybe Bryce Young, although you said he would have that bounce here, and he did play well. He played all right. Maybe.
No, I think maybe Bryce Young, we've been too hard on him. If he has a good running game, then he's not so much pressure on him.
He's won 2 straight.
He's won 2 straight, but they've been gaining over 200 yards on the ground. That's not going to continue. What's their schedule look like? Who do they have next?
They play at Jets.
Well, then maybe Dowdle will get 300 yards in that game. Who do they have after that?
Buffalo.
Well,
we just saw what Bijan did.
Yeah, well, Buffalo can't tackle anybody.
And then at Green Bay.
Oh.
Green Bay is the biggest mystery I've ever seen. Their defense was great, and now it's what the hell is going on in Green Bay right now? It's weird, but
okay, moving right along here. The Titans and the Raiders. Titans 10, Raiders 20. Only 1 turnover for Geno. And an all-out defensive effort that left them very tired. Beat a hapless Titans team and got Callahan fired. So the Raiders end their 4-game skid for a win. Not much offense from either team in this game. A combined 451 yards. Geno 174 yards, 1 TD, and 1 interception. Giante still. I thought he was going to be all world. Everyone in the draft, they were talking, oh, this guy's the number 1 running back. He's going to make a big splash in the NFL. 75 yards, 1 touchdown. Cam Ward, 26 of 38, 222, sacked 6 times. Ridley got hurt in the second quarter with a hamstring. Crosby had 2 sacks. The Raiders defense played a lot better. I mentioned the stats. The Titans had no running game to speak of, but not much more from the Raiders either. With Giante, 23 carries, 75 yards. That's a pretty poor
3.3
average.
yards a carry.
3.2 yards per carry, and Tucker 5 catches for 70 yards.
Trey Tucker, he's a pretty effective wide receiver.
Yeah.
I will say this about the Titans. I'm not, obviously very, very early. Cam Ward has been horrible. The Titans are a terrible team, but Cam Ward has been terrible. Like, Bryce Young looked really bad, but he had moments. I have yet to see a moment from Cam Ward that I'm like, okay, that's great. Because think about the Arizona game. You could talk about the game-winning drive. They shouldn't have even been in a situation where that would be a game-winning drive. The Cardinals went 3 stooges on them.
Yeah, he got sacked 6 times. That's got to hurt. I got to shake you up a little bit.
Well, and also, everybody should have seen this coming. If your head coach demotes himself from play calling duties to the quarterback coach, you know something is going to happen. So the writing was on the wall. If you demote yourself, something's going to happen. So I think ultimately the Titans are going nowhere. I think it is a race to the bottom. Who's going to be? Is it going to be the Cleveland Browns? Is it going to be the Tennessee Titans? Who's going to be the worst team in the? Is it going to be the New York Jets, who have yet to win a game, I might add?
Yeah. Well, at least the Titans have won 1 game.
By the way, Panthers are favored on the road in New York. Harvey hot hand pick. Yeah. Money line, Panthers, bet it. Just going to throw that out there.
Okay, moving right along here, 49ers Bucks. 49ers 19, Bucks 30. I think we've already talked about this game. I'll just say Mayfield did it again with his passing and running, beating the 49ers. Handley was really quite stunning. I really don't need to say more about this game. We talked about it quite a bit. Mayfield Magic shines again and win. And that guy, I agree with. He's an MVP candidate for me.
He has to be.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Bengals Packers. Bengals 18, Packers 27. The hapless Bengals tried to get a win with Joe Flacco, the ancient one.
The ancient one.
They looked good for a while. A 10-7 after 3 with the Packers ahead, but the Packers came back and the Bengals were done. So Jacobs overcame his illness, rushing for 2 TDs. He threw up twice during the game, he said. He had the flu. But he went and played because he was sick in another game previously, and he had a fantastic game. So he said, maybe I play better when I'm sick. Flacco was the Browns quarterback in the win over the Packers 3 weeks ago. And you know what? They played okay. It was 24-16, I think, late in the game there. 24-18. Yeah, 24-18.
It was 24-10.
Oh, 20. I thought it was more. I thought they got closer than that.
No, if you're talking about close, yeah, it was 24-18.
24-18. So, they did come pretty close.
It's also 17-10.
The Bengals now 4 straight losses. Flacco 29 for 45, two touchdowns. Their running game, they have no running game, but they got Chase and Higgins going at least. Chase 10 receptions, 94 yards and a touchdown. Higgins 5 for 62. Love had a good game, 19 for 26, 259, a TD and an interception. And Jacobs, I mentioned, 18 for 93, 2 touchdowns. And Golden, their rookie, he's having a nice year, 3 catches for 86 yards.
The reason why I think that the Packers defense, I will never understand it because it dominates the Lions' dynamic situation there, then allows the Cowboys, who have no defense, and the offense looks fine, but all you need to do is just slow down Dak Prescott a half step, and then you take the lead. You tied with the Dallas Cowboys, and you allowed Joe Flacco behind an offensive line that is rated the worst in the NFL. How many times do you sack him?
One
singular time.
Yeah. And he's a statue out there.
And by the way, he had 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, doubled his touchdowns, no picks in this game. That's you talk about embarrassing performances. That defense should have done something to that offensive line, the way that they couldn't do anything, and Joe Flacco did that. I don't know. Something's weird with the Green Bay Packers. I don't understand what they're doing.
I think that LaFleur is worried too. He said I was very nervous for this game. He said it was a trap game.
It was 10-7, 17-10. Oh, was it 24-18?
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been this close.
No.
It was a 14.5 point spread.
I know.
It's ridiculous. All right, let's go to the next
Moving
one.
along. Buffalo, well, we went through this one. Yeah. Buffalo 14, Falcons 24. This game was hard to watch for me. The Bills lose again. It was a debacle, but what do you expect from a team that can't tackle? I mean, they can't tackle. Robinson, London, and Penix, they beat the Bills big time here. Robinson, 19 carries, 170 yards, just ran right through them. They had a touchdown. They could not tackle him. London, 10 catches, 158 yards, and a touchdown. Penix, 20 for 32, 250, and a touchdown. Allen, he's looking like the old Allen in the last couple of games.
Yeah.
15 to 26, 180, 2 TDs, but 2 interceptions. He threw 2 the other game, too. Cook, what's happened to him? He's 17 for 87 yards. There was nobody that caught any passes, really. That was really not that bad for Cook. But, I just think Robinson, his coach says he's the best player in the NFL. Maybe so. But the Bills' defense not being able to tackle makes him look a lot better. The 2 picks by Allen, I'm a little worried about him. The Bills failed to capitalize on opportunities. I mean, they blocked the field goal, then they couldn't do anything with the ball. They had another chance. They got the Falcons out late in the fourth quarter, and they couldn't move the ball.
Yeah.
So their offense looks terrible, and their defense can't tackle.
I will say this. They had the same amount of missed tackles as total pressures. 19.
Yeah.
19 missed tackles. And on top of the fact, Josh Allen, he fumbled twice. He didn't lose any of the fumbles, but you're right. He's
looking like the old Josh Allen.
And I'll also say this, and I've said it in the past, and now I'm hearing it more. Sean McDermott is not the guy. It's like the Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr. He'll get you up to a point. He won't take you to the promised land, though. Mark Jackson can make Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. That was the Splash Brothers. He may make it to, the first playoff series, but they kept losing to the Clippers. 2013, That's where the transition stopped. So I think he needs, it could be a defensive coach thing. It might be that he needs an offensive coach. There is a wall they keep hitting. It's always against the Chiefs. Late game situations, he can't figure it out. The defense breaks down. The offense can't get going. There's a wall that they can't overcome. Yeah. I think that's Sean McDermott. That's what I said 3 years ago when I said the Super Bowl window shut. The primary reason, at the time it was also Josh Allen's red zone turnovers, but the primary reason was your head coach is Sean McDermott. I don't believe Sean McDermott's a Super Bowl winning head coach. And again, every time we get to the playoffs, they play the Chiefs. It rears its ugly head.
Well, maybe those glasses that he's wearing will make him look smart.
I will say, though, and this is crazy to think because of what I saw against the Panthers for this Falcons team. When you were like, well, are they really the number one defense? They showed it. Would you believe they're the second best total offense in the NFL right now?
No, that's surprising.
It's stunning. And by the way, this pass rush.
It's from the earlier games.
Well, yeah.
Oh, you're talking the Falcons.
The Falcons,
Falcons, yeah. Well, maybe they found something. I don't know.
They've accumulated
Then just give it to
400
Robinson.
total yards the last 2 weeks.
Just give it to Robinson. Don't let make Penix more of a game manager. I think that the defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Number 1 total defense in the NFL.
Okay, the final game here. Bears-Commanders. The Bears win by 1 point, 25-24. The Daniels late turnover. Daniels late to dooms Washington and loss.
Turnover.
Turnover.
T-O is
right.
short for turnover.
Late turnover by Daniels on handoff spells doom, affected by the weather, which at times looked like a monsoon out there. That was a funny game weather-wise, and I think it really affected the Commanders negatively because Daniels, to me, has not looked like he did last year in his rookie season. He's not making the surprising explosive play to pull things out at the end. Instead, he gives a bad handoff and a fumble, which gives the Bears the ball, and they drive down for the winning field goal. I was really disappointed in that game. Daniels 19 for 26, 211, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Their running game, Merritt 17 for 61, is not a lot there. On the other side, Williams played okay, 17 for 29, 252 and a touchdown. Swift, he had 14 carries for 108 yards. Maybe that's the difference in the game. I mean, the Bears generally don't have any running game. They had it on Monday night. And Swift again on receptions, 2 for 67. That was probably his career game with the Bears so far.
Oh, yeah, no. I had him on my fantasy team. Unfortunately, I still lost because my opponent had George Pickens, Jonathan Taylor, and somebody else who also got all over 20 points. So I got absolutely destroyed. But, yeah, no, I thought that, I mean, if the number 1 overall pick and the number 2 overall pick, they keep going up like this, think about it. We had the Hail Mary last year, and this one we had a game-winning drive, game-winning field goal, who, by the way, I'll give a little bit of credit here. That was Jake Moody making that kick where he got booted out of San Francisco.
He got one blocked in this game.
He did. It was a very low kick, though. But yeah, no, I mean, think about it. San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan's like, well, I think we all know why we had to let him go. And then all of a sudden he kicks game-winning field goals now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a great thing. And, hey, we're starting to see a shift. It's definitely a work in progress. The Bears' offense is shifting a little bit. Caleb Williams, this offense is being integrated.
Oh, it's Johnson.
It's working. Yeah, Ben Johnson's offense is working a little bit. The defense still has, woes here and there.
Yeah, played pretty well against Washington.
I had a couple of good plays. The Jaden Daniels interception was an underthrow. Here's one thing I'll say. Chris Moore cannot be your leading receiver if you're Washington. Can't happen.
No.
Debo Samuel.
Well, I'm missing McLaurin, but where is Debo Samuels?
4 catches, 15 yards.
Come on.
Can't happen. You got to get him more involved somehow. I don't care if you have to hand it off to him.
Why not let him be a running back?
He had 1 carry, negative 1 yard.
Yeah.
1 carry, negative 1 yard.
Yeah.
This was a missed opportunity for the Commanders, but hey, it was a hell of a win for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and the Bears are what, 3-3 now?
The Bears are 3-2.
3-2.
3-2.
Hey, that's pretty good for them. They got to be pretty happy with Johnson.
I tell you, if you're the Bears, you take what you get. By the way, Caleb Williams is on pace to be the first 4,000-yard passer in Bears history.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's do a quick one here. Let's do Thursday night.
Thursday night, Steelers at Cincinnati. I like the Steelers 5.5 points
on the road. Here's the thing: you took the Browns plus 5.5 on the road last week. I said that was a horrible idea. You've taken Steelers minus 5.5 on the road in Cincy after Joe Flacco. By the way, did you hear Mike Tomlin's quote about the Bengals move? He ripped on the Bengals about acquiring Joe Flacco.
Oh, yeah?
I found it actually shocking that Mike Tomlin would be that candid.
What's he care?
Well, he's playing them this week.
I know, but still. I mean, I think the Steelers will win this game. Maybe the point spread's a little high.
I'm taking it straight up. Give me the point spread. Give me the money line.
Yeah.
I will say Panthers money line. It's -1.5, or it was -1.5. Garrett Wilson's going to be missing some time. Breece Hall's getting cryptic again, sending cryptic messaging, hashtag free 20. We just saw what they did in London. Created a new bottom, new low. Panthers -1.5. I already bet it. I put it in. I put the money line in. That's the first pick of the RV Hot End, which I will cover on Friday's show.
Okay.
But speaking about that does wrap up today's show. That was their weekly report. Great job, Dad, as always. I always enjoy that.
Thanks.
But for this one, we thank you so much for watching. We thank you for the constant support as always. My name is Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We have been your co-hosts of the Harvey Hour. You can catch us Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Good night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with